All right, so as Michelle rightly said, we need to be on top of technology and know that, all the things that are changing in technology and all the resources available to us. All right, just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, please download the app to the network. Okay, that way you can get notifications, you can easily chat with people or ask questions, and it's at your fingertips. All right. Then, all right, so the first resource I want to share with you, you may know about this already. It's a free cultural self-assessment, okay? And it's given by the company Cultural Intelligence, if you know this company. All right, and what you do, and what I'll do is click on each and every resource so we can actually see it. So I'm going to click on it and change the share. And then I'll put this link into the chat box as well. So this is the Cultural Intelligence Center. It's, I think, a US-based cross-cultural training company. They have certifications also. And then you can see here, what's your CQ? Receive a complimentary CQ analysis. So you go here and you sign up, okay? Click sign up. Now, the thing is, of course, this is a marketing tool for this company. So they want you to enter your information and then you're going to be on their mailing list. But you can just get yourself off if you don't want to keep receiving those mailings. But the email serves to send you a link to perform the assessment. So it's not like you can just do it automatically. You have to enter your name, your email address, and then it says here within 1 to 2 days, you will get your instructions and your link to perform your self-assessment. So I recommend doing it for yourself in any case, just so you can see how it goes in case you want to use this with any of your students. I'm really sorry. I just realized I wasn't sharing that. You guys didn't see that whole thing. Let me just go back and show you. This is the website. Okay, and then I scrolled down a bit, then I clicked here, and then it gets you to this form, and then you fill it in, and you'll get a link. Okay. So just to show you what this does and talk about why you might want to use this, or why would I mention this particular resource, just because sometimes companies have asked me for an assessment. Okay, they've asked me to assess their employees. Okay, and sometimes companies don't want to pay for the extra cost of doing, I don't know, let's say the GlobeSmart. I mean, there are several assessments out there that are paid. Okay, GlobeSmart, Culture Active, even the Aaron Meyer tool, which isn't very expensive. The Aaron Meyer tool is the cheapest one out of all of the tools. Okay, I think it's 7 users for $100 or something like that. It's really cheap, but you have to know Aaron Meyer's system in order to use it. Just like any of those assessment tools, you have to know the Lewis model in order to use Culture Active, and you have to have been trained in GlobeSmart to understand how GlobeSmart works as an assessment. This one doesn't require any of those, pre-existing conditions. Basically, it's something you can ask people to do. If someone says, hey, do you have any assessment? Okay, so some companies have asked if I could perform an assessment. This one is free. And I think it's a pretty good measure because it's a self-assessment. It's not someone else assessing your skills. It's a self-assessment. So people answer a lot of questions and then they get a profile. And I'm going to show you what that profile looks like. I'm going to show you the profile that was created by my, when I did this. Just give me 1 second while I find that and share. All right, so this is the CQ report. This is the report it generates, just to show you what it looks like. Again, I answered a number of questions. I self-assessed myself, and then it gave me this report. Okay, so you just have to read it and understand, if you're going to break it down for someone, how you would break it down. Basically, you explain that this is a self-assessment. So these are you know, you've assessed your own skills in these 4 areas. Okay. And then it gives you a profile, and these are the scores. Like, you have low if you score in this range, moderate in this range, and high in this range. And then of course, you know, this is what comes out of your assessment. They determine from the questions that were asked and how you answered what percentage drive you had in terms of cultural intelligence, knowledge, strategy, and action. So, I mean, basically what you can do with this is say that, okay, like if you see that here, my score is, I mean, it's kind of low compared to the others in the knowledge area. So maybe you could ask someone you're coaching, okay, what would you do to improve your CQ knowledge? Like, you can just make a discussion out of it, you know, as an exercise. And then it explains all these things. So you can actually spend some time going through each one. And, you know, explains what this all means. CQ drives subdimensions. So if you just read it in advance and get prepared to explain it to your trainee or your coachee. All right. And then knowledge, same thing. So it's, you know, people love this kind of thing because it's a self-assessment. It's not based on someone else scoring you. Whatever's come out of it is because of your own ability, like your own assessment of your abilities. So yeah, like as you can see, this score is on the lower end compared to the others. So I might ask someone, okay, what could you improve in this area? Your business knowledge and CQ, or even leadership is also down a bit from the others. So yeah, just create a discussion out of it, and there you go. Now, if you're going to use it in a training session, what I would highly recommend, of course, is to send this at least a week in advance. Okay. Send that link at least a week in advance, because people need to go on that link. They need to fill it in. Remember, here's the steps. All right. They need to go on that link. They need to fill in. They need to scroll down, click sign up, fill in the form. Then they have to wait for the email to arrive. Then they have to perform the assessment, and then the report has to come back. So that whole process, I would leave at least a week, although it can take only 2 days for the whole thing. But just in case, you know, you want to leave people at least a week and give them a deadline. Please, you know, do this by this date so that you're sure that when they come to you for the training, their report has already been generated. You can spend some time discussing it. I mean, it's a good starting point for a training. I think even if they don't do it by the start of the training, it's not the end of the world. You could also do it by the second or third session. It's not the end of the world. You know, people get busy. They often can't adhere to deadlines. So just in case, I mean, I think it's okay also if it happens later on. All right, so that's an assessment. Okay, now it's a free one. Remember, I'm going to give a session about all the other paid ones later on. All right, now on to some websites. So if you're familiar with this, if you know Hofstede Insights, there are lots of free resources on this page. Okay, and here we have a country comparison. You don't only have to compare countries. You could just see countries by themselves. Like if I put Italy, you can see where Italy falls on each of the 6 Hofstede dimensions. Okay. Now, of course, you have to have studied the Hofstede dimensions to understand what this is all about, right? And to know that, okay, sorry, I just realized, okay, now can everybody see that? So there's a field here where you would just enter any country. So I put Italy, and then I got all of these, you know, the scores on the, you know, where they fall on the dimension scale. And if you scroll down, you can see what these all mean, just to refresh your memory. I mean, I don't know about you, but I studied this a long time ago. So I have to, every time I'm going to use the dimensions, I have to go back and kind of review them. What does that actually mean? You know, and it'll tell you, like at 75, Italy has this, blah, 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 and this is why. Okay. Then you can compare countries. So let's say we wanted to compare Italy and Germany, for example. Okay, then it's going to show you Italy and Germany and how they compare. And this right here can produce a lot of discussions. You can do a lot of exercises with this. You can, look at where there's not a whole lot of difference. It's not like vast differences, but there are some differences. For example, power distance, long-term orientation have at least, 15 to 20 points difference. So you can talk about what that might mean, and they give you lots of guidance down here. Okay. So you can create a discussion out of it. You can even compare several countries at once. You can see 3. I don't know how many they let you do all at once. I never tried to put like a lot, but you can see that you can enter several countries, and you can see some major differences between, for example, Saudi and Germany. So I think this is a good tool. I mean, it's a good way of, it also, if you want to check some information of your own, if you want to, I don't know, if you want to sort of have some validation, if you're doing a relocation course and people are relocating from Germany to Italy, then it would be really relevant to look at these factors. And especially if you're someone who uses Hofstede dimensions in your training, this is a good way to like show people in a training that, it's a way to substantiate whatever you're discussing, whatever you're showing them. It's like a way of validating and giving credibility to your training. All right, so that's Hofstede dimensions tool. Let me go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so next we have Aperian Global. So if you go there to their website, you click on resources in the menu bar. And make sure I share this. All right, so the resources is in that tiny menu bar, not the main one. It's in the tiny one on top. Sometimes I go to this website, I'm looking around, where is it? Oh yeah, it's in tiny print. And if you click on it and you scroll down, you can see lots of like packets. There's an activity thing here, toolkit that you can download. All of these are free and you can just download them. Of course, they want you to enter your email address and everything, because they want to collect your data and send you stuff. But I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea to get their emails. They send a lot of good resources, but you can see there's pages and pages of good information here with small packets that can help you in different areas, and it's free. There's an inclusion journal. So they have a lot of interesting stuff, and nowadays they're leaning a lot towards the DEI space. So you can see a lot of resources in that area. All right, so back to our resources. The next one, and I'll think since George is here, I'll invite him to say a few words if you don't mind, because Diversify was my next resource here, and we have the man George Simons on the call. That's unbelievable. Hi, George.
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm okay. I just woke up from a nap. That's why I was late.
Oh, no worries.
Anyway, not much I can say here. What we really have here in Diversify is a tool for getting people to discuss their own and other people's cultures by 5 different kinds of stimulating questions that can be played as a game or just used as discussion leaders. And we have just, we're in the process of providing a large set of, oh, she's got my thing here. Great.
Yes.
My homepage. We had a major free offer for games that relate to the management of people coming from Ukraine and from the battle zone there. For example, we have a game in Polish and Ukrainian about Ukrainians.
Wow.
And in Ukrainian and Polish about Poland. So people who are receiving the refugees from the war in the Ukraine can have the kinds of discussions which help them understand each other's stories as well as the context in which they're living. I mean, for example,
Amazing.
Poland has been an incredible place. You know, Poland doesn't have refugee camps. It's Polish people taking people into their homes. And
Right.
so there's an important issue here of making that happen. We are in the process of creating an online tool that you'll be able to subscribe to. We have over 100 games, and some, for example, the Ukrainian games are in 13 languages at this point. So you can access these things for nothing. On the other hand, there is a charge for the other kinds of games. All the refugee and we've been doing this since the Syrian refugee. We offer free games that are of social significance. And as I say, we're going to be putting these things into, they're not just games about countries like Ukraine, but you've got here, we have cultural competence, games about skills that you can develop, cultural identity. We have a whole set of games about gender, men, women, and gender issues, sexual identity issues in different countries, and so on. And we're continuing to pursue this all the time. This is not a fixed item. It's a process in the sense that most of our games have 100 cards in them, at least. These are called mini games. And then the larger games have 250 cards, 50 of each kind of the questions that are part of the game framework that you can use. So I don't know, I'm open to questions about this, but you took me by surprise here. Yeah, I'm happy to both invite people to create games with us, as well as to use the games that we have in stock, give feedback, update them. Culture, one of the things is that culture is a moving process, you know.
Right.
And even if you refer to things like Hofstede's categories, how these apply change over time. Okay, so what you have from Hofstede are basic hints to look at, but no certitudes. And the same thing is true here. We try to give you continually contemporary situations that are growing and changing for discussion and opening up new areas. We have a recent game that we've been playing the games online for free, by the way. And if you check on the front page of our website, you had it up there a minute ago, you can click on join free online game sessions. We have 1 or 2 a month where we play one of the games, and people come from all over the place. You know, we've had five continents in a single game for that. So this is the one we just got done with here. And we haven't announced the next two games. So we'll do that probably by the end of the week. But we played our game on cultural competence on February 6th. Excuse me, February 2nd. Then there's a second one on cultural competence on February 16th. As I say, you know, the games have up to 250 cards in them, and in a single discussion for a couple hours, we may only talk about 5 or 10 cards. The discussions are really, really rich about this. So I'm open to questions about this or anything else you think I should know. All of these things are available from the website.
Thanks a lot, George, for that. There is a question from Pallavi. Are these games virtual or can be used in physical training rooms? She wants to know.
Okay. There are physical versions of the games, but that sort of died with COVID, all right? Because people were not meeting face to face. So we've moved it to basically now the games are in the format of PowerPoint, which is a lot richer. You can add content, sound, images, and so on to them. And as I say, we're probably at least half a year away from an online subscription service, which you will be able to customize for your own use. So for example, let's say you're a Spanish company and you want to do business with South Korea, you can take information from both sides and have people on both sides playing together and learning about each other.
That
So
is fantastic.
it works very well. Yeah. Only today I was in conversation with a university in Austria, and we are going to develop at least 2 games with them. Probably one on all of the things that you need to know about inclusion practically. In other words, what kinds of thinking and behavior do you need to be inclusivist? And also for people who are needing to be included, what are the kinds of behaviors, questions, and thinking that you need to facilitate that sort of thing? So that's one of them. And the other one is very interesting. It's about populism and political discourse. In other words, we live in a time where political discourse is shaping people and putting them into groups and tightening the power and the perception of that, making the us versus them so extremely powerful. The kind of contrasts and conflicts that we're having in the world today. Just for one example is the business of when we're dealing about refugees, the difficulty of the resistance to different kinds of refugees according to race and background are things that are happening, and we need to know what are the kinds of actions, behaviors, and thinking that we need to be solid citizens and not be drawn away by all the kind of fake news and propaganda that are going on. So our games are concerned with cultural dynamics as well as with cultural content, cultural behaviors and values. We have a new game this past year on toxic masculinity. What's happening in the world around the culture of men versus women, and the decline of men. The fact that 80% of suicides in the UK and in the United States are men between the ages of 19 and 49, and the other 20%, of course, is women. But women are not very successful at killing themselves. A greater number of them fail at their suicide attempts. So what's going on for men? Warren Farrell wrote a book recently called The Boy Crisis. If you're a young kid and you take a test in most schools these days, at least in the US and the UK, you take a test, you will score lower if your identity is that of a boy. If it's known that your identity is a boy, you will get a lower score than the women in your class. This has been proven by research. So what they do is they take the same tests and give them to a number of teachers to grade. And if the student is identified as a boy, he will inevitably get a lower grade than the same paper when he's not identified. So there's an incredible, feminism has done wonderful things for women around the world, and a lot of things to do yet. But the fact is nobody's paying attention to male identity and helping men to deal with the changes in their identity that have been going on in recent times. So I'm blah, 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 blah. You've got other things on the agenda here.
No, that's okay. Thanks a lot, George. It's all very interesting. And I'm sure everyone, including myself, we all listened with great interest. And I also think it's pretty amazing and admirable that you have this social responsibility / humanitarian edge on what you're doing. You're trying to help Ukraine and Syria. It's wonderful, really, because it ties into all of your messages, and you're doing a great thing by trying to help them out and promote understanding at this difficult time for many.
Well, we've all seen the slides. You're going to provide these information to folks.
Yes.
You know where our website is, and
Yes.
I'll put my, if you have any questions or needs, I'll put my email address into the chat.
Super, super. Yeah, and I'm going to provide the links as well as the Facebook page, because I noticed if you sign up on the Facebook page, you get the notifications every time there's a game. Like I get those notifications every week that they're playing the game at this game at this time, and then the link to join it. So that's also, I think, useful. And Michelle, you had your hand up.
I did. I had some questions around what the games include and what they are and how you play them. And I'm browsing and listening parallel, so I might have missed it, but I did see there was a frequently asked questions site where there's a little video, and maybe that answers some of my questions. Because there's a whole bunch of games and some of them have a little bit more meat in the description and some of them don't. And I was curious as to what's behind some of the topics, but I'll look through the frequently asked questions first.
Yeah, I was you, and if you got a question, just ask it, as I say. But if you look under the shop thing, it tells you all the variations of the games, the translations, whether you want bilingual or multilingual versions, and so on and so forth. So,
well, one, for example, is U.S. domestic diversity. And it says deals with the basic diversity issues of the U.S. workforce, race, ethnicity, gender, and it's almost like a teaser, but I'm trying to understand what's behind the game then. How is that approached, etc. But we can take it offline.
okay.
George, would you like to give a session just on diversity one time through the network? And that way you can give a full demonstration maybe of how it goes, and maybe, who knows, you could get some people to, interested people.
Here's a thought. First of all, as I said, I'm happy to answer any kind of questions. Some of them have greater descriptions and others have less. What might be useful is to do a session on gamification. In other words, why do we use
concepts?
What do games do? What do you have to take in mind when you're working across cultures with games? How do you create games and so on? So an overview of that, and then maybe 20 minutes playing of a game.
That would be great.
Yeah, depending on how many people you have in the group. We like to play in groups of 3 or 4, so everybody gets a chance to answer lots of questions.
Okay.
So we might break it down into let's see, are we on Zoom here?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's easy to do breakout
rooms.
So
yeah, it sounds really interesting. Thank you.
So send me an invite of some sort with when you'd like to do these things, or a couple options, and we're happy to do it. Yeah, no problem. Great.
Last quick question. In order to join your session on the 16th, do I have to have joined the one previously?
No. It's just
no. Okay.
As I mentioned, there's 250 cards. Well, in this game, actually, there's over 300 cards. And what we do is we make a selection of the ones we think will be most interesting, and if we're doing it twice, we make 2 different selections. So even if you went to the first one, you could go to the second one. If you didn't go to the first one, there's no problem in coming to the second one.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, good to know.
I'll put an email on the address, and then
super. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So the last resource I had, unfortunately, I had been using it for a long time, but the site is currently showing a server error. I put it here anyway, just in case at a later date it's working again. Maybe they have to resolve something and then it'll be working again. But basically you go there, you enter 2 countries, and it gives you like 2 paragraphs of negotiation tips, how these 2 cultures should negotiate with each other, what you have to keep in mind when negotiating with that culture, with both of the cultures, whoever you've compared. And it's just a nice little thing that students love to use, because they can go there and say, oh, let's see how Americans would do with Germans, or let's see how Japanese do with Brazilian. Okay. And then they, so it's really nice. And it's written by, it's about a site. Book is also called the same name, I think, Negotiate Like a Local. There's a book Right now, the author's name escapes me. Does anyone know this book? I was just looking at it earlier, but now I forgot his name. Anyway, there's a book that's connected with the website, so it's backed up by research and everything. All right. Moving on then. A great book, which is free on the internet and not copyrighted. It's, whoops. Oh, these are out of order. Okay. I don't know what happened there. It's called the Peace Corps Culture Matters Workbook. Does everyone know what the Peace Corps is? Who does not know what the Peace Corps is? It's an American organization that sends people abroad to do different volunteer projects for like 2 years at a time, I think. So they might go to like villages in Africa and build schools or build roads or teach people, teach English, teach other things. So this is the book that they use to prepare people when they're going abroad for one of these projects. And why I like this book, it's just so full of exercises. I'm going to open it up here so you can see. I think it's like a 300-page book. And it's just full of information, and you can adapt a lot of the stuff. Let me know if you can see that. Culture Matters Peace Corps Workbook. Okay.
Yes.
Great. So as you can see, I mean, you can take your own time and have a look at it later, but there's lots of really good brief explanations of certain things like universal, cultural, personal, individualism, collectivism. It's just full of information. I don't know, like there's also a lot of hands-on activities. So it talks about communication. It talks about different styles. It talks about directness and indirectness. Now, the thing to remember, just keep in mind that this book, I mean, the audience is young Americans going abroad. So you're going to see a lot of comparison of American with other and American values. It's going to talk a lot about American values, but a lot of it, you can just ignore that part about American or, you know, maybe you can, if you have Americans in your training, it is applicable. Otherwise, you can take that part out. I mean, it's still applicable, even if you're not working with Americans. You can talk about monochronic and polychronic. There's a self quiz. Remember how we were talking about self-assessments? People love self-assessments. So this score yourself is an assessment to find out if you're monochronic or polychronic. You can, you know, there's a lot of things about there's the Hofstede dimensions as well, like uncertainty, avoidance, things like that, that you find in the Hofstede dimensions. And just lots of stories and lots of, let me just see if I can find one example. The book is very like easy to read and easy to just pick up and use. You can, and the beautiful thing about this, it's not copyrighted. Like you can use the information. In fact, they want you to, because that's the whole point behind this book. Like they want to spread the love, you know? So yeah, like this is really good. It's very basic, but you know, when you have to teach beginning intercultural sensitivity, this is a good exercise to do, even with, you know, people that have never studied the topic before. You get them to discuss these things and, you know, what kind of behavior is it? Is it, you know, is it a universal thing? Is it above? So you're supposed to use this iceberg, you know, you see this iceberg, you're supposed to put those up like above the water or below the water. So really easy exercise, but you know, to start out a very basic cultural course, I think it's pretty useful. And then see this one about directness, external control, saving face, see all these different factors. So you would explain all the different factors, then you would, you know, ask them to match which type of cultural behavior is this? What type of dimension is that? So it's just brilliant. I really like this book. And there's also a teacher's guide. So if you go to the second link here, this is a trainer's guide. So it's going to tell you how you can best utilize the book as a trainer. So here's the trainer's guide. And it'll just explain some things, if you just go and have a look, it'll explain, how, see these questions, how do I incorporate culture matters? PST has something to do with their program. I don't know what this means, but doesn't matter. Just ignore that and you can use their, it tells you, look at this, how much time, the objectives, content overview, etc. Like any potential issues, it'll tell you lots of additional information. Okay, any questions about that? All right. So by the way, just to tell you, what do I use from this book? Normally I use that molychronic polychronic quiz. I use the directness, indirectness exercises. There are some exercises where you have to transform direct sentences into indirect ones. So it could be really useful if you're working with a culture that tends to be direct communicators and they need to adapt their communication style to an indirect culture. Then there's, you can make an exercise out of it, how to transform, or vice versa. If you come from an indirect culture and you're going to work in a direct culture, you may have to adapt your communication. And there's an exercise for both directions inside the book. That's really good. I use the iceberg one when I have young trainees. Let's see, what else do I use from the book? Some of the diagrams and pictures that they have in there, sometimes I use those images and create a discussion out of it or something as like an icebreaker or after lunch activity. All right, so any questions so far on anything? We had some links. We had a self-assessment. And we had one book that I know of that is for free. And lastly, some videos. Now, it's not my intention to self-promote, but I have a lot of free videos on my YouTube channel in case anyone needs very basic, very short video explainer videos on certain concepts. They're like 2 minutes each. Like, I'll just click on one to give you an example. Let's do monochronic, the first one, monochronic, polychronic. And then there's like, it's going to give us an ad.
Allora ti sei deciso a fare trading? Meglio usare plus 500 Invest. Perché fare trading?
Okay, so we don't have to go through the whole thing, but just to show you what it looks like. It's a little cartoon. It explains a couple of dimensions. It's like 2 minutes and you're welcome to use it. It's free. So there you go. All right. So I'll send all these links after the session. I'll post it inside the network. And I was trying to post them into my, paste them into the chat window, but I got stuck. So let me just try to do that now, just in case. All right, so we have the cultural assessment. That's the first one. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask, and then we'll start sharing your favorite resources as well. So there's the cultural assessment. Okay. Then the websites. Put those in the chat window as well, just so you have it for later. Oh, that's funny. It didn't. Oh, okay. And then let's see, we had the book. Book here. And lastly, the short videos, cartoon explainer videos. All right. And again, I'll put the slides inside the network later. So now the floor is open to anyone else who wants to share their favorite resources or wants to just let us know that there's something out there that maybe I didn't mention or we didn't previously know about. So please feel free to share anything that you like to use online. Anyone?
Well, good morning, Cheryl. Can you hear me?
Hello, Mona. How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you. I've been busy. I've been out to doing training, so I'm back.
Wonderful.
My house. I forgot Cheryl's meeting.
Oh, good to see you.
Good to see you too. On what you mentioned, because I apologize, I came in late. You mentioned the book. There was a book that you just posted the link.
Yes.
The first one's for assessments.
Yes.
That we can incorporate right on
Yes.
the training and so on and so forth. Okay. Okay. Very good.
The first one, the book, the self-assessment that I mentioned, I also, just as a warning, I sort of told everybody, it's good to give it to your trainees at least a week in advance because they need to fill a form. And then after 1 or 2 days, they get a link. And then on that link, they perform the assessment. And then I think it's instant, the profile that comes out from the assessment itself. I think that comes back instantly, but you need a couple of days to send the form and then get the link. And then there's one other thing I just remembered, which I didn't mention earlier. That company, Cultural Intelligence, likes to then have a 15-minute conversation with you to like talk about your assessment and see if you want any training or anything. But you know, obviously this tool is there. It's one of the things they use to promote their company. So you can tell your trainees if you want, you can have that meeting. Otherwise, if you're not interested, then you don't have to have it, right? They offer it as an option, really. So basically they, you know, because you've put in your email address and you get that link back, they tell you after you've done this assessment, feel free to make an appointment here to talk about it with one of our counselors or whatever. And but that part you're going to do as the trainer. I mean, if you end up using it, you're going to do that breakdown and you're going to discuss it with them. And so you're going to have that function, and you don't have to be a CQ certified trainer. Maybe some of you are here, by the way. Is anyone here certified in CQ? No. Pallavi, I thought didn't you do one of their courses?
No, not certified. I have taken the multi-dimensional assessment as well, though, where you nominate 5 others who you've worked with across cultures, and that's really interesting because then you get to compare yours and rating that you get from them, and you go like, oh, I'm not that good, or maybe I'm better than I thought on some dimensions, which is quite interesting.
So what was that called? The multi-dimensional?
Yeah, it's the 360-degree multi-dimensional or multi-assessment. Yeah.
Just putting this in the chat window for everyone. Okay, and how does that get done? Does that get done by a certified?
Yeah, so somebody who's
trainer?
certified, somebody who's certified needs to take you through that. So there'll be a debrief and a brief and a debrief before and after. And then, so you do the self-assessment, which I think they're offering for free, but the multi-dimensional assessment has to be, you know, it's a paid version, and then you can compare the both. Yeah.
I see. Okay, good. All right, thanks for that info. And yeah, so anything else from anyone that you like to use, something that we didn't, or videos that you like to use, or anything at all that wasn't mentioned, or even maybe not free resources that are online that you like to use. Also check the chat message because George put his email in there.
So I could check, I could share 3 websites. I wouldn't say that I use them on a regular basis, but at least I bookmark them. It's a little bit like buying books and reading books is a different hobby. So I bookmark a lot of stuff, but I don't use it all the time. Maybe I just share my screen.
Please, let me just make sure that you can.
So you should see my screen with the cultural atlas now, right?
Oh, cultural atlas. Wow.
And they provide a lot of information about different cultures. You see here different religions. And if you then click deeper, for example, here you learn about Indian culture.
Wow.
Some things are more at the surface, like greetings and stuff like this, but I think it also goes a little bit deeper into religion and
Wonderful.
communication, whatever. I mean, I cannot say too much about the quality of everything, but at least I bookmarked it because I think I checked it for China, the country I know best, and seemed to be useful. So I would just share it in this.
Wonderful.
In the chat.
Thank you, Stephen.
So I think it's a useful resource if you really work with a culture you're not so familiar with. And no. So I put it into the chat. And then the second one, I think some of you might know this. I know it because my friend Gary Thomas was involved, and I don't know if anyone else here in the group was also involved. It's a project from a consortium of different partners. You see the partners here. It's Assist International with Gary, but also a lot of organizations from other countries. And it seems to be an Erasmus project because it's called Erasmus site. And they provide a lot of tools. So they call it the Open Online Catalog for Intercultural Tools for Vocational Education and Training.
Wow.
And I have to admit, so as Gary was involved, I'm sure it's great, but I did not really check it out in detail. And I think it's also quite new. And they have this under output, you find the Open Online Catalog. And then there's a database with tons of tools.
Wow.
I think this is even too much, yeah, because you're really overwhelmed if you click into this. And then there's also a lot of training materials here with different modules. What is culture, models of culture, whatever. And then you can go into the module. And within the module, you find the iceberg, the onion, the culture dimensions, whatever. So some are shorter, some are longer. I think it's also still under construction.
That's an amazing resource.
And I think the
Wow.
people who did this are really qualified, which
I heard about this project.
yeah. And then the last one I just discovered recently is this World Personality Map. So here you find maps about different personality types. Of course, first of all, you have to like this idea of personality types and personality tests and whatever. If you don't like this, you should not check out the site. And then you get these world maps about different traits, different roles, different strategies, different types. For example, here you have the different types. They call them, some of you might know this, like the diplomat, the architect, the logician, whatever. And then you can just check the different countries, compare the countries, and you also get a lot of background information about these personality types, the personality traits, and yeah, whatever.
So these types, do they come from the MBTI?
I think it's
model?
not MBTI. I think it's
no,
a
it's different,
system.
but it's different, but it's actually I quite like. I haven't used it for in the intercultural component of it, but I quite like the personality test
Concept.
itself. But it goes in a similar direction.
Okay.
I think the idea behind it is similar, but
Mhm.
I mean, you see, you have much more personality types here
Oh, yeah. Okay.
than there were IBTM.
Right.
But as I said, I didn't really check it in detail if it makes sense. And I always wanted to go into this and check it for the countries I know well to see, does it make any sense? Does
Right.
it add anything to culture
Mhm.
dimensions and all the stuff we are using? But I didn't do it yet.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Stephen, for those 3 excellent resources. I'm definitely going to check those out and keep them on my
Yeah, you're welcome.
list. Thank
Maybe
you
you
so
find
much.
the time then also to read it.
Yes, I'll look into it, the personality types, and then I'll let you know what I think. And maybe if we want to try it, since we are saying we want to try it, we haven't yet Me too. I have a lot of those things I haven't tried. You can have a session in the network and have it an experimental pilot session.
Yeah.
I know I would attend. I would definitely see, and see how it goes. And, as a trainee, as a tester of your lesson. So that option is always there if you wanted, before using it on a client, you can always test it out on people in the network. They'd be happy to participate.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
George, did you have a question?
I have a comment, and that is that there are a lot of profiles out there. I mean, I'm an ancient MBTA person myself, but one of the things that I have discovered that I always look for here is if, excuse me, if the profile depends solely on your answers to questions, it's liable to be skewed in terms of your own self-perception. And so the tools that I like to use are those where I answer questions, then you answer the same questions about me as a colleague, a friend, a collaborator, and so on.
Like a 360.
Yeah. So that you actually, and then the value of these things, even MBTI, is sitting down with somebody you work with and telling each other stories of how this plays out in your life.
I think you're right about that. The Culture Active also has that 360 option where you do your own self-assessment and then other people in your team assess you, and then everyone looks at it together. And so you're able to see how you're perceived, because how you perceive yourself can be completely different from how someone perceives you. And so I think you're right when it comes to self-assessing. It's the safest method, because then there's no hard feelings, or, because it's like whatever score they got, they're responsible for it. So they don't blame the tool or say, oh, this is biased, or this is something, they don't criticize whatever tool it was. But it's definitely better if there's a self-assessment and then a peer assessment of yourself, and then you can see everybody on the model where you end up and discuss it.
And I think it's also part of the success that you do your own self-assessment, and then the outcome is exactly what you expect. So everybody says, wow, this describes me so precisely. What a great tool.
Right. It validates the whole experience. Good. All right. So anyone else, any other resources to share? Maya, anything from BBI? Allison?
Yeah. No, I mean, if Maya wants to go first, I will.
No, I don't know if Maya wants.
Okay.
No, go ahead, Allison. You go ahead.
So I feel like I'm also in the same boat of, well, I have it bookmarked, but I didn't actually never tried it, but it's called Edutopia.
Oh,
it has like
okay.
a bunch, it's kind of broad. It has like stuff for elementary school students, stuff about math, but then it also has a lot of like more social type topics. And it's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it, or I'm going to watch some of the videos, I'm going to subscribe, and I have not, but it looked really interesting. It looks like it has like a ton of resources. So that is one. And not, again, I don't want to self-plug, but I know I just started my little business, Alto Intercultural, and I'm gonna start. Thank you. So I have so far have only like 2 free like worksheets, but eventually I would start to upload as well more like worksheets that people can download and use as you want. So
okay, thanks. So where can we access those?
Oh, on my website, I'll link it.
If you put the link in, that would be
Yes.
great. So they're worksheets.
Yeah, like just 1-page PDFs.
Okay, that's great. This is the Utopia website. Great. Then Alto Intercultural. Let's look at your website, if you don't mind. I'll share.
Yeah, thank you.
No
so
worries. Yeah. Okay, good. So nice. Oh, here are the worksheets. Communication.
Yeah, just
context.
very. So I'd be adding more. I'm just starting, but I want to get a couple up.
a one-page PDF file that reviews communication context with a communication model example. Great. And then is this worksheet tied with that? This one? Are they?
They're two separate, but yeah. So then you just have to cart. I think it makes you like check out as if you're
Okay.
buying it, but you're
it's zero.
$0. Yeah.
Okay.
So you go to view cart.
Here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there it is. And then you just check out, and then you have
Yeah.
to fill some
And
information.
then I gather your information.
Right.
And then
Very important.
yes.
Very good. Let's
Okay.
see your about me.
Yeah. Oh,
There you are. Are you in Malta here?
Yes.
Yeah, I recognize it.
I had a
Amazing.
stranger, some person took that. I don't know. I was like, okay, I asked him like, oh, do you mind taking a photo? He went into like full photographer mode. Like he's like on
It's
the
a
ground
nice photo.
crouching. I'm like,
It's a really nice photo.
thank you.
Really nice.
Thank you.
Congrats. Wow.
Thank
And I love your colors and your whole style and everything.
Thank you.
Workshops.
Yeah, so those are just my workshops that I'm offering. I have not done any yet, but
you will.
We will.
Yeah, it's all there. It's all getting, yep. Just one step at a time.
Yeah.
Content creation. I might need your help.
Yes.
Content creation. Yeah, because this is your forte, I think. This is your strong point.
Mm-hmm.
You've been doing this for quite some time for yourself, so now you can do it for others.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well done,
Thank
Allison.
you.
All right. So anything else anyone wants to share before we wrap up?
Can I send
Sure.
some research to the site, to the portal?
Absolutely. Yes. What you can do, anytime you can share anything to the network, if you want to share it underneath this announcement about this event, then we know what it's connected to. Otherwise, you can also announce it on the wall, and that way everybody will see it, even if they didn't attend the event. Maybe it's better. And yeah, anything. George, you have your hand up. You're on mute.
Sorry, I never took my hand down.
Oh,
But
okay.
as long as I'm on,
A permanent question.
what's going on for me at this point is very great interest in how neuroscience and cognitive science are changing how we understand culture, and that's
Yes.
an extremely important issue. I have a colleague who's trying to do both a game and a book about how we can perceive culture in this way, and so again, we have a game on neuroscience and culture.
Oh, really?
And, yeah, it's not a freebie, that one, but our stuff isn't expensive anyway. But
Good to know.
it's very much important for us to realize that how people make decisions is much more related to identity, and that's why I've been very much involved with people like Joanna Sell, who is a specialist in how we tell stories, you know, how we elicit stories. And actually, it gave me an insight into our diversity work, in that what I discovered was we've been telling stories for years in these games, but we thought we were learning about cultures, and what we're actually doing is connecting with each other about cultures. And from a neuroscientific point of view, that means that when you and I share something, our mirror neurons are becoming like each other, and we're actually becoming more like each other. Okay, instead we're less me versus you and more of an us every time we share a story and an experience with each other. And to me, this is the most powerful tool that we have at the moment for understanding how we can reduce the kinds of populism and emphasis on cultural identity, us against them, in the world today. Amen. End of sermon.
So George, you were in May Nguyen's session in Siatar, right?
I'm in May.
You were in the session by May Nguyen, because I was also there, and I remember you were there, sitting in the front row.
Okay, Mai Gwynn, yeah, she is my hero at this
Yes,
point.
mine
era.
too. She is
Yeah.
like the master of this topic. I mean, she is a
Right.
neuroscientist, right? And she combined it with culture, and like she wrote this book, which I've been meaning to read. I bought it. It's sitting there waiting to be read. The one about brain science and insights into culture or something.
Yeah. She is right on top of this issue. The other person who's close to this stuff is what's his name in Japan? Jovis Scholz.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah. And the third person, interestingly, who's talking about, we're realizing that culture in terms of, we used to talk about culture, big C and small c, about how art is an expression of culture. Art is art and discourse are how we build culture. They're the tools of culture. And also his name's slipping me now. Paul Schaefer is a guy to watch in terms of, he has a book on the world is culture and that sort of stuff. So our sense of culture, I could go on and on, but I mean, our sense of culture is that we are culture.
Right.
In other words, through every neural synapse in your brain and every neuron that goes through your body is where culture lives.
Right. It's a
And
part
then-
of us.
And then we create a world out of our identity. This whole business about meta narratives and social construction is really in the foreground right now. I mean, we have constructed a world. Our maps reflect our colonization of the world.
True.
A big issue for me right now, and I'm trying to get somebody to work on a game, and this is how to decolonize your profession.
Oh, good one.
I hope it's. I don't have anybody working on it yet, but I keep putting it out there, hoping somebody will say, yeah, I could do that for you, So with that, and
Good luck finding someone for that. That's a great topic. It's an important one.
thanks.
All right. So I think we can wrap up unless there's any other questions, final thoughts.
For George, can you mention the 3 names of the people to follow or get their books?
They're in the chat box if you look. I accidentally made this a direct message to Michelle. I'll
Yeah,
put the-
I asked behind the scenes for those names, so
Sorry, then everybody else.
wasn't the only one, sorry.
those are Charles, Mai Gwynn, yeah, and Paul Schaefer, SCHAF, 1 F.
Oh, 1 F. S.
No E.
No E. S.
SCHAFER. I believe.
Like this?
Yeah,
Okay. Paul Schaefer.
yeah.
Okay.
Where can I connect with you, George, please?
Where do you live?
Florida.
Yeah, it's a way, so it's only about 6,000 miles.
His email is in there. Let
I'm
me
in the
just-
south of France. You've got my email in the chat.
I'll put it again so it's
Oh, good,
fresh.
okay. And sure, connect anytime. We're 6 hours apart. In other words, it is 15:10 here now. And I think where you're at, it's 9:10 in the morning,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just, there you go. So you're all welcome to be in touch and have a look at my website and stuff. And
Great to have you, George. Thanks a lot. That was our good fortune that you were on the call today and you were able to share a lot of things about diversity. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for participating as always. Hope you have a great rest of your day, evening, morning, whatever it is, and hope to see you in the next one.
Thanks for organizing all this.
My
Yeah.
pleasure.
bye-bye.
Take
Appreciate
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.